Folks, Donald Trump is rapidly unraveling, and it is deja vu all over again. What am I talking about? Well, in his latest unhinged Truth Social meltdown, Donald Trump is once again calling for a massive government investigation into, drumroll please, the 2020 election, which he lost fair and square. An election that his previous government in term one also investigated and found that he lost fair and square. An election that his allies in Republican states also investigated on their own and found that he lost fair and square. But no, he wants to relitigate this, and he is now calling for a special prosecutor to do it. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. Folks, he's just not well. Donald Trump is not mentally well. He won the 2024 election. He defeated the Democrats. He is president of the United States. He's the most powerful man on earth. And he's locked in for at least another 3.5 years. But that's not good enough. That's not good enough. He is haunted. He is tormented by the 2020 election. This is the thing that keeps him up at night. This is the thing that makes his eye twitch. He's unraveling. He can't get over the fact that he lost fair and square, that he got his ass kicked by Joe Biden. So here we are. Trump calls for special prosecutor for alleged election fraud in 2020, claiming he won in a landslide. Donald Trump has called for the appointment of a special prosecutor to investigate allegations that there was election fraud in 2020, which he lost to former President Joe Biden. This comes 2 days after FBI Director Kash Patel revealed that he had shared, quote, alarming but unsubstantiated allegations about manipulation of the 2020 election with a Republican member of Congress. Quote, the FBI has located documents which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 U.S. election, including allegations of interference by the CCP, Patel wrote, referring to the Chinese Communist Party. Quote, I have immediately declassified the material and turned the documents over to Chairman Chuck Grassley for further review, end quote. Trump posted on social media boasting about, quote, 0 border crossings for the month for Trump versus 60,000 for sleepy crooked Joe Biden, a man who lost the 2020 presidential election by a landslide. He then called for the Department of Justice to open an investigation, writing, quote, the evidence is massive and overwhelming. A special prosecutor must be appointed. This cannot be allowed to happen again in the United States of America. Yep, he posts this on Truth Social. Let the work begin. What this crooked man and his corrupt cronies have done to our country in 4 years is grossly indescribable. Make America great again. Trump's calling for a special prosecutor to investigate alleged election fraud in the 2020 presidential election serves both political and strategic purposes, despite the lack of credible evidence supporting widespread fraud. Dozens of courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court, rejected challenges to the 2020 results, and Trump's own Justice Department found no evidence of fraud sufficient to alter the outcome. Trump's insistence on a rigged election remains central to his messaging. A special prosecutor, a figure perceived as independent, would give a patina of legitimacy to his ongoing claims and potentially reignite legal drama around an issue that animates his base. Trump thrives on conflict and spectacle. Appointing a special prosecutor would extend the 2020 narrative into the future, keeping the controversy in the headlines and allowing him to frame himself as a persecuted outsider fighting the entrenched, corrupt institutions, a narrative he's used effectively throughout his political career. Perhaps more importantly, Trump's insistence on an investigation immediately becomes a loyalty test. Republican officials who back such a move demonstrate fealty to Trump over institutional norms. Those who resist can be painted as part of the deep state or rhino establishment. While Trump's call for a special prosecutor may uncover new facts, though that seems doubtful, it's more about maintaining political momentum, undermining public trust in elections, and asserting dominance over the Republican Party. Even without action, the call itself serves a purpose, fueling grievance, energizing supporters, and delegitimizing his opponents. So this is shocking in the sense that, bro, you won. It was 4 years ago. There have been multiple statewide, local, and yes, federal probes into the 2020 election that Trump himself triggered at the end of his term in term one. And again, Republican states did mass audits as well, and they came up with nothing. They had nothing. They lost I think it was all but one case, and there were 60 plus cases in federal courts around the country. He lost in front of Republican judges. He lost in front of judges appointed by him. It was a decisive, brutal defeat. And yet, he is tortured by the fact that he was legitimately defeated by a Democrat. And it doesn't matter that he's won re-election. It doesn't matter. Now, I think he's playing with a double-edged sword here, and I'll explain why. Because election denialism is really good for the MAGA base, and it's really good for a Republican primary, but people in the general don't like it. The polling is pretty bad on this, and Trump's polling, historically, when he won't shut up about the 2020 election, has led to bad polling results, and yes, some bad electoral results for Trump and his Republican Party. Even the people, like the independents who are not in the MAGA base and conservatives who are not independent but not MAGA either, they recognize Trump lost the election and they'd really like him to shut up about it. So this only satisfies the MAGA base, which is not the totality of the Republican Party. It is by far the most powerful element of the Republican Party, so that's a problem. But this is not half of the country. This is not even a third of the country. This is about a quarter of the country. And Trump is playing with fire here. And Democrats might be able to pounce on that further still as the midterms approach, as the 2028 presidential election approaches. Hey, this guy is such a moron narcissist that he's obsessed with relitigating an issue that he got his ass kicked on, not just in the election, but also in all the subsequent investigations by his own people. That's where his priority is. That's where his priority is. Going back and trying to steal an election, artificially change the scoreboard on a game that he lost 4 years ago. That's where his focus is, not on lowering prices, not on solving, domestic issues, not on resolving international crises. Do you really want to give this man and his party another 2 years, another 4 years? Maybe you should take the keys away from him and put them back in the hands of people who actually give a damn about you, the Democrats. It's a two-edged sword. On the other hand, not only would this energize his base, but also, I think it also sets up a predicate for J.D. Vance in the next election. Because whether or not J.D. Vance runs for election, I think it's very likely he will in 2028, whether or not he wins in 2028, he will be the vice president of the United States. He will be in Mike Pence's position, like Mike Pence was on January 6, 2021. And J.D. Vance has already made it abundantly clear that if he had been in Pence's position on January 6, 2021, he said this on the record in the All In podcast, he would not have certified President Biden's victory. So in 2028, if he runs for office, assuming he gets a Republican nomination, there's a really good chance he will, win or lose, he will be the one presiding over the ceremony, which ultimately determines the winner of that election. And I could see this special prosecution, this special investigation that Trump is calling for, and there's a very good chance he'll get it because it would be Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, who is a MAGA loyalist in the ways we have never seen a Trump Attorney General be. Certainly not Bill Barr. Certainly not, I'm blanking on the guy's name before that. What is his name? I keep thinking Roger Stone. The first Attorney General before Bill Barr took over in term one. She is a MAGA cultist and loyalist, which puts them to shame. I think it's very likely that she appoints a special prosecutor. And then this thing gets dragged out. Not only does it energize the base, but it tries to give Vance a predicate to engage in shenanigans in the 2028 election. Maybe he doesn't certify. Maybe he tries to push it back to the states. Maybe this fuels an attempt by Republicans to try to make executive and legislative changes in a way which further advantages them in the next election. This is dangerous. It's a two-sided sword. And there's great risk to the Republican Party for following this Trump down this path. But there's also potential disastrous rewards for them as well for the rest of the country. Rewards for them that impact the rest of the country. It's not good stuff. All right. So this is where we are. Kash Patel, talked about FBI Director Kash Patel feeds 2020 election conspiracy theories with documents about unverified tip. In other words, Kash Patel has no evidence except an unverified tip from an informant. You remember the last time that Republicans ran with an unverified tip from an informant without any substantiation or corroboration? It turned out that person was knowingly regurgitating Russian propaganda, Alexander Smirnov, against President Biden and Hunter Biden. It backfired spectacularly. That person was a criminal operating on behalf of our foreign adversary to undermine the Biden administration. He was ultimately charged and convicted. And they want to run with, this person told the FBI, made an unverified allegation about the 2020 election. We haven't proved it. There's no evidence to substantiate, but this person said this thing, it was written down. And so maybe the 2020 election was stolen. That's the predicate for Trump's meltdown here. It's pretty dangerous stuff, folks, and we need to be vigilant about it politically. And we need to get these people out of office ASAP. In the midterms, get them all out. If there is a Republican on the ballot in the 2026 midterms, vote their asses out. There is no room in this country, for a functioning country, for an elected Republican lawmaker. They all need to be voted out. That's my position. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.